Hi, my name is Nathan Clark.
And my name's Jamie Clark. And you may know our team from...
Go to NathanClarkTeam.com and get top dollar for your home.
We've been one of the top real estate brokerages in Rhode Island for the past 11 years now.
And it's been about 20 years we've been selling real estate, but real estate's not our only passion. If you're looking for information about the technical side of real estate, this probably is not the podcast for you.
But we will be talking a little bit about real estate.
But if you're interested in entrepreneurship, building businesses, marketing ideas, this is the podcast for you. Hey, this is Nathan Clark, and I'm with Tara Granahan today. Tara, welcome to our show.
Hello. So good to see you guys
It's great
in
to
person.
see. Right?
And Jamie's in the studio also.
Yes, I'm here. I'm totally excited to see Tara.
Tara,
We
terrific.
shook hands even.
Yes.
Woo.
Yeah.
I shook her hand.
It's totally a different world outside of COVID now, and it's starting to be surreal as we go out there to see people without masks on.
I know.
And stuff
I know.
like that.
It's just the weirdest thing to say. You know, for about a year and a half, a bunch of my girlfriends, we said we were going to do one day a month. If you can make it, you can make it. If you can't make it, you can't make it. This was pre-COVID, right?
Okay.
First Tuesday of the month. So if you have something, the kid's playing a game or there's a whatever, just don't go that month. We're not going to change it. It's going to be the first Tuesday of the month. So there might be 4 people. There might be 7 people. I think the biggest one was probably 12, you know. And so we just, this Tuesday, June 1st, right? Yeah, June 1st. We just started up again, but we're still going. Can we hug each other? Or is everybody good?
Right.
You know. Do I ask them if you're vaccinated? It's just so weird.
It is. When you still see people, you're like, do I shake their hand? Do I do a fist bump? Can we hug? Yeah.
I
Right.
know, but
Well,
we're gonna get past it. That's all.
You and I spoke about it briefly when we were on the phone for setting up the interview. And it's, do you even ask people about it? Is it kind of like, when people, back in the day with my mom and dad anyway, no one ever asked who did you vote for as far as
Right,
presidential.
right.
So is it like that?
I think it is sort of like that. And I didn't think it was going to be a thing. So once I heard other people start to say, I can't believe someone asked me if I was vaccinated, I thought, oh boy, I guess I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't ask how much you weigh or your bra size. I just said like, everything good? Can I come in? You know, because, and especially when you're in between the first shot and the second shot, I thought it was sort of a known thing. But then again, I was one of those hesitant people. I didn't know if I was going to get vaccinated in the beginning. I thought, well, I've got a little bit of time because, they were going to the older people, and then we're going to trickle down. And I only had one person in my house get COVID, test positive, and the other 3 of us didn't. So,
Wow, they were in your house and they got COVID. Wow.
Yeah, one of my kids. And, he said he didn't feel good. I can tell it. He doesn't care what I tell. But he said, I just don't feel good. I'm achy. And this was right before New Year's. And I said, then get out and just run over there to the Wickford train station and quickly get the test because it's going to go, right through the house if that's the case. And he did. It came back positive. He went right to his room. He was the only one that used the upstairs bathroom. Everybody else, my husband is on the road a lot, so that's fine. And then myself and my daughter, which stayed in the downstairs. And he just, here's your lunch.
Slide it in.
Yep, I would leave it on the little table outside the door and then run. He's like, you're treating me like a leper. But he stayed in his room, but he doesn't mind that.
Yeah.
He's that kind of a guy, And we didn't get the next day he had no symptoms, but he still stayed in his room for a few weeks.
Jamie and I, we got the virus.
You had it first.
I got it and I gave it to Jamie.
then-
But you know what's amazing about it is my son, Ben, he's going to be 8 next week. He was with us the whole time, and it didn't get to him.
There's no rhyme or reason. Even some of my relatives, one got like nothing but tested positive. It just, and then somebody was down for the count and has the residual, whatever, cough, chest, who knows? I just want to get to the other side of this, right?
Right.
Just slowly getting back to normal feels good enough.
Going to the store, I'm starting to see, I would say about 40% of people don't have a mask on. It's still about 50, 60% of people have a mask on.
You know what I said the other day on the air? And it could have been where you go, right? So I stopped in the shoe store on Route 2 in Warwick. So there's predominantly women, right? There were a couple guys, some couples, but it was the men that didn't have the masks on. And the women were all walking around head down and had their masks on. I just carry it with me. I don't know if somebody's afraid or
if they're going to say, hey, put it on when you're in my store or not. Yeah,
yes.
I feel the same
I'm
way.
not going to cause a big stink over anything.
I think it's about making people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
If you want me to put it on to feel comfortable, I'm all about that. It's just best to be that way. I don't want to start a
We'll be respectful
It's to be respectful
of other
I
people's
think.
space and stuff.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, it needs to come to a point of not to get political with what's happening in the news, but at a point when they're saying take the mask off, then we can take the mask off.
Right.
You know?
I do feel badly. I know you have a little one. I feel badly for the kids.
Right.
We're all running around going, hey, we can do whatever we want now, and you can't ask me if I've been vaccinated. And the poor kids are stuck in the heat. We're going to have a heat wave a couple of days, and why are they last? I don't understand.
And the kids we just got.
A notification that they can take it off outside during recess.
And I didn't know. I was sitting there going, they're wearing it outside.
Yeah.
I saw a guy in a moped. I was in Pawtucket, and I saw a guy in a moped by himself, on the moped by himself with a face mask.
Yeah,
on.
I saw a child riding his bike, helmet, full mask right over the nose and mouth, and he's driving down the road in the fresh air. And I thought,
Benjamin loves to wear his mask.
see, no,
We'll be in the car, and I'll look in the rearview mirror, and he'll have his mask on in the car with just me and him. I'm like, Ben, take the mask off.
It's gotta be.
I like it.
I think it's a habit type deal, and
yeah, like put your seatbelt on, or you're not driving the car.
Right.
Put your helmet on, or you're not going on your bike.
You think the same thing could happen with us? Like some people have just been the same way.
Yes.
They're just like, I just put it on everywhere.
I do think so. I have friends that said that they'll wear it at a concert. They'll wear it. Well, I'd wear it on a plane. I always wrap my face up. I don't want people coughing and
and breathing
tooting
other
and
people's
doing-
hot air.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
spurring
gross.
right out.
I
on
always,
you.
even if I clean leggings, you know what I mean, in your bag,
Yeah.
just stick it around your face.
But I think everybody's going to be respectful the same way. If you say, hey, if you're comfortable wearing it, that's good.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to berate you for wearing it. But it's going to
Exactly.
be the same way if I don't want to wear it.
Right.
You know, you can't berate someone that says they don't want to wear it. So
Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be a thing. It shouldn't be a thing, right? If you want to wear it, wear it. What do I care?
I think it's
I call
gonna
it
be a thing.
mind your business. I said it was mind your business Monday when we got back to work after they said no, you don't have to wear your mask. Just mind your business.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be fine.
Right.
So, Tara, I didn't give you an introduction to the interview.
Oh, we just
Before we
jumped right
we
in.
just jumped right in. So if you don't know and you're listening right now, Tara Granahan is on WPRO, and she's been with WPRO for how many years?
Oh gosh, it was I know this September 20th because it was my mother's birthday. The day Buddy started too, when he came back from quote vacation.
Oh, that's
That was
right.
a long
yeah.
vacation.
Say. And so he was coming back onto the radio, and I came into play the same day because we switched up the lineup. So it was 2007. So I've been there over 13 years.
Yes. And I think we've been working together since.
At least 10, or maybe
I would say,
12.
yeah. I would say around 2009, 2010.
right,
I think we started.
Almost right from the get go.
And you were on the morning show with I forget his name.
John.
Yes, with John, and then you took the little later in the day, in the afternoon, and then you now.
Oh well, then they moved him, and they put myself on with Andrew Gobeil, who
Andrew,
was from
that's who I
Channel
was thinking
6,
of,
which
yes.
is interesting because I did just almost an equal amount of time at Channel 6 as I am now at the radio station,
Oh, wow, I
which is
didn't know that.
weird. I was there for 13 years. So, and then I didn't work with him there because I was, we were doing different time, no crossover. But they brought him in. We did 3 years on that show together. Mm-hmm. And it was more of a news program. It wasn't a lot of talk. It wasn't a lot of opinion. It was very structured. And then he moved on. Mm-hmm. And I was, they brought in Gene Valicenti to do the morning show. So, it is the business.
Yeah.
You've just got to be ready for anything, anytime, whatever.
Right.
And I think the best thing to know is that you've got to be able to do more than one thing. Right, and especially in television and even in radio, you got to be able to. If they're telling you, this is what we think we want to do with you now, you could either take a fit and storm out, but go find work elsewhere, obviously, or just try to be amenable, right,
Yeah, roll
and
with
try
punches,
to
yeah.
try to be flexible. So I did 3 years on the morning show with John, then I did 3 years with Andrew, and then Gene Valicenti came onto the morning show, so I was kind of on with Gene. And then I was kind of on with Buddy in the afternoon. So I was physically there. It's crazy. At one point, I think I was physically there in the morning and in the afternoon drive time. It's terrible. I can't even remember.
That's two big personalities. Yeah.
Yes. And I was producing both their shows.
Oh, wow.
It's a little crazy. And then I think then I was just on with Buddy. Then they kind of reformatted the morning show and got a different producer, type team in there for Gene. And so I was phased out of that. And then I was with Buddy, but I was also the assistant program director.
Huh.
So I was doing a lot of projects on the side. It was when, a lot of kind of podcasting, but, webinars were going on. So I would go out to a local college and set up a panel. And then we were driving people to your website. Things like all that was kind of happening.
You've done it all.
Right.
I didn't know you produced also.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep. Now, not pushing the buttons, but
Yep.
setting up all the material, all the guests.
That's a ton of work.
All the topics.
Right.
Every day.
It was so funny, too, working with Buddy. And I can tell this story because I would have told it to his face. I covered him as a reporter. Needless to say, he wasn't thrilled that I was that broad that he's going to be forced to work with now because his longtime friend and producer, Ron St Pierre, moved on, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, wasn't happy. And he just kind of pretended like he never saw me before. But when I tell you, he did not care for investigative reporters
Right.
when he was the mayor, right? And we were on a team, You Paid For It, the You Paid For It team, which was all about government waste. So as soon as he saw you coming, doors are slamming.
Not happy to see you.
Yeah. So it was one of those things again in this business where, okay, you're going to be working with Buddy now. And he was told, you're going to be working with Tara now. And you just made it work. And he just kind of pretended like he never even knew who the hell I was
Right.
for the last 10, 20 years.
So
It
you
just
have
didn't
lots of
happen.
stories. How long before you do an investigative reporting? And that what channel was that for?
Channel 6 I was with
Channel
the whole
6,
time, yeah. After college, once I got into, I was at a tiny radio station in West Warwick. I know Coventry, West Warwick line, going down to
Right.
Box on the Market or what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is.
yep.
And there's a house with like a giant satellite dish. It's still there, I think.
I probably would know.
That was the radio station. I had
wow.
to go in at 4 a.m. and turn it on, like physically, like turn it on.
Yeah.
And I was the news reader, basically. There was an AP wire. Tick, 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 tick. The news came out. You ripped it, like rip and read is what they called it.
Wow.
And one day, apparently they didn't pay the bill. They came and took it out. So I'd have to run across the street to the gas station on the opposite side of the road and buy the journal and then just rewrite so that I wasn't,
Yeah.
copyright, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would rewrite the news bulletins that would come at the top and the bottom of the hour. There was a DJ, I can't think of his name, and I wouldn't even say it. Sometimes he showed up, sometimes he didn't.
Well, that's good.
So then I'd have to call my dad, who's in this whole crazy business, and say, I've got to figure out how to spin the records or put the discs in and then run back over and type up the news on my type. Oh, it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
crazy. I lasted there 6 months, but I was applying to a bunch of different jobs in the market. And what you would hear is you're never going to start out in a top 50 market. You're going to have to go to, Paducah, Kentucky or something and work your way back. And I was pretty, not aggressive, but I'm like, well, I'll just try it anyhow. There was a small New London station. And then Channel 6 called me to be an associate producer, which was, kind of entry level, do a little of everything. That's where I started 6 months after that radio station. And then I ended up just going to the TV.
And so associate producer, you'd have to make a story, find a story, make it a story.
Yeah, right. Like what we would call the VOs, like the voiceovers or the VOSOTs, voiceover sound on tape. And so you'd write what the anchor was reading, and then the editor would either put the video to it. Then I was a Chiron operator. So if you're looking at the television screen and you see Governor Bruce Sunland, D in parentheses, meaning Democrat, Rhode Island, right? You the title everybody.
Right.
Or live in Seacock, Massachusetts. We would have to physically type that in, give it all a number, like a 4-digit number, and then when that shot came up while you were live on the air, you'd have to pull it up. Then the director would put it on the screen. So, I mean, it's some funny stuff. We had a ball at Channel 6. I'll tell you, we were the underdog, completely the underdog. And unfortunately, and I think it is what it is, they still are.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever would put the money into it. And it was always considered like a New Bedford station. They did a lot of southeastern Massachusetts. And so that's where the signal was, right? So it just was. But everybody was there when I started there. Everybody was there. Bill Rappley was there. Sean Daly was there. All the recognizable people, right? Who else was there? If you remember Ann Conway, God bless her. Dave Lehman was there. Ken Bell. Cascione was there at some point. Giorgi was there at some point, right? So, and then everyone sort of
dispersed.
Yeah, Mario was there, I think, even for a little while.
Mario?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kelly Bates was there.
Wow.
Yep.
Everybody's been
She
there.
was hired. Yep. Everybody was there. And Barbara Morse was there.
Wow.
And so, excuse me.
COVID.
Not COVID. Frog.
I know, right?
I swear it's the pollen. My eyes are like hanging.
Oh, it's been killing the last couple weeks.
But yeah, it was a great place to learn a lot because they were mentor types, real hardworking people. And then everybody sort of, went somewhere else. But I stayed and I was anchoring the morning show and the noon in the end. So I started as an associate producer and then I was producing shows. And then it was Hurricane Bob.
Oh, wow.
right? 91?
92,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
91, 92, yeah.
And the news director at the time said, holy blank, we forgot to put somebody at the hurricane barrier and it was in danger of not holding.
Mhm.
And I said, I'll go. Not a good move. And he's like, well, I guess. So I had not done a live shot. Now, there's a big difference between putting a story together and editing it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Take out all your stupid mistakes.
Knowing what's coming.
And my first live shot was a hurricane. So I'm doing the 11 o'clock news. And I get a photographer in a live truck. I don't even know how to put the microphone on because we were still wired to the truck in a hurricane. So that's really safe. And I'll never forget, it was Matt McGlashan. He's in Florida somewhere. Matt McGlashan, the photographer, is like, all right, just hold this and, don't touch any of the wires. And the show, it was a Monday night, and the 10 o'clock show was about the doctor living out in Alaska, northern exposure. Is that right?
I believe so.
Northern exposure.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes, yeah.
the credits are starting to roll, and I realize I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to anyone because it was 11 o'clock at night. I didn't have any official sound to roll.
And you're out
I
there.
had nothing to say. I don't even know how the hurricane barrier works. I was such a dingbat. So, of course, in a hurricane, there's always a bunch of drunk people somewhere in Providence, and they're all running around in the storm. Half of them don't have their shirts on, the guys, And, of course, I know one of them because I worked with them on Block Island, my college summers. And I'm like, well, just stand here, put your shirt on, and just stand. Chris, he's a hairdresser now. Yep. I said, Chris, just stand here, and then let me just ask you a couple of questions. What are you asking people that are out running around with half their clothes on?
Why are you out here?
I don't know. It was the worst live shot. Like, it wouldn't even make a blooper reel. It was that bad. And I don't even know if I paid people to destroy it, but it never resurfaced.
It's on YouTube somewhere.
I don't think it is.
I will find it. I'm going to cut right to
And
that right now.
I
actually.
went back like
Privately.
a soaking wet failure. Like, I thought, why did I ever say I
wasn't
would
one of
do
those,
that?
like, slicks, like, ready, and
Oh,
then
no.
you do the
I
whole-
wasn't ready for anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was inappropriately dressed, I'm sure. I probably had heels on. And it was a moment. It was a learning experience.
There you go.
Yes. See, I can't remember things that far back, so all those embarrassing moments that I try not to remember them.
You remember your trauma. It was
Yes,
trauma.
the trauma.
Yeah. I had a couple just from in the business.
Yeah.
I used to actually dress up when I would go and set the signs up and everything.
Yeah.
Full nines, skirt, heels, all that. Yeah. And then here I am pulling big for sale signs out, slinging signs. And I think about after the third or fourth listing I went to, I said, okay, that's enough of that. With
Right.
the heels and the skirt and me with the hammer. It wasn't working out. So then I would dress more casually and be prepared for my
I
situation.
see now a big difference. But back then, it was like you almost had a suit on.
Yeah.
Or a dress. And now it's way more. I mean, if you shot people from the legs down, they'd probably have like slippers on or sneakers on. But we had to carry the tripod and everything. These younger journalists now, they're a one-person unit.
Yeah.
They're doing everything digitally. We had a giant tripod. The photographer had a huge camera.
Right.
I mean, it was, the size of a suitcase. Mm-hmm. And so you would have the time just, like you said, slug the tripod over your shoulder, or else you were a diva if you didn't help. Right. Because they've got all the batteries were
like, I got my
huge.
money.
They were
It was
bricks.
car batteries, yeah.
Yeah. So we, you helped out, of course, but flopping around in heels in 90-degree weather, twice being pregnant doing it, running down the street in heels, and big as a house I was having my kids. But I had them on TV.
So tell me about getting into it. I know your father was a producer. He was a singer. Is that what influenced you to get into?
Well, the funny thing is, I probably talk more about Dad being in the business, but my mother was in the business too. So she's from Rhode Island.
Okay.
He's from upstate Pennsylvania. He left at 17 or 18. The story of, a couple bucks in your pocket, I'm going to New York, because he has a great voice, fantastic voice. Didn't really know the business, but knew some of those Philly guys, right? Like, Dick Clark.
Oh.
And he did Bandstand,
Yeah.
and he was a young act,
Yeah.
and he had the Fireflies, his own name, Jerry Granahan, but he also was Jerry Grant. They just changed it up for different labels, I guess, sort of like the traffic reporter.
I wanted to ask you that. How do you come up with your talent name?
Okay, so here's two really funny stories about that. So he was also Dickie doing the don'ts. So I know this is before your time. It's before my time, too, but I've done
The
backup.
Big Bappa.
Yes. Well, how about the other day? He's had a surgery, so he's staying at my sister's and doing a little recovery. And the other day, my sister goes, only my phone rings. And on the other end, the person says, "It's Chubby. Is Dickie there?" And she's like, "Excuse me? Like, I beg your pardon?" Chubby Checker.
Yeah.
And he still calls him Dickie.
Yeah.
Dickie doing the don'ts.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a name I
he's
recognize.
Alive. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he keeps
What's a famous song that he sings?
Chubby Checker, doing the twist.
Doing the twist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Does he Splish Splash too? Is he Splish?
He might be
I think
Splish
it is.
Splash. Yeah.
Do it, Splish.
should
That's
know
what
that.
that's exactly what I was thinking when I heard
Yeah,
it.
that's
was
what I
Splish
think.
Splash.
All upon a Saturday
He's still
night.
great. He's a little younger than my dad, and he checks in on him, and it's really funny. So, but Dickie doing the don'ts. So as I said, Dick Clark had a son, a baby, and the joke was he's named after his dad, and they said, well, we're not going to say Big Dick and Little Dick, and I'm just saying it because that's the conversation.
Right.
That's his name.
Yeah.
And so they called his son Dickie Doo. I don't know why. It was the 50s.
And he was Dickie Don't.
And therefore, my father said, oh, that's a good name. We're going to do Dickie Doing the Don'ts. And
Rhymes.
and that
Anything
stuck.
rhyme, they would make it.
Yeah,
They-
he had
they-
4 gold records. Then he went into the producing side of things, and worked for a couple different record companies. But he wanted to put a girl group together. So here's my mom now, a little bit younger than him, in Rhode Island, and she was like a beauty queen, and she did sing, and her parents had a restaurant, and so they had entertainment after a certain hour. It's now the Islander, if you know where that is.
Oh, yes.
In Warwick.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, we like
Yeah.
going there.
Oh yeah. So so before that it was Tommy's. That's my grandfather, and they would pull open, like one of those retractable dividing doors.
Oh, right.
After dinner, and then there was a
Accordion
dance
style.
floor. So I mean, could you imagine like how fun that would be to have that now?
Yeah.
Not a club, but like you could just dance with a live band.
Yeah.
And it was wildly successful. A lot of the politicians went in there, and my mother would sing, and so she wanted to go to New York. So her dad, my grandfather, would take her on the train, go to New York. And so the story goes, there's my dad. Now he's in the producing end of things, and I think it was a VP of the record company. And he sees, she's got great legs, my mother. So he sees
Great
this
legs.
woman. She was a beautiful, beautiful woman. And it still is. And she's walking down the stairs, and he was like, oh, okay. And so he put her in The Angels, which is my boyfriend's back. So you know that song.
Right.
Yes.
You know the...
I do.
Yeah, okay. Done that too many times in my life, too, as backup. So he put her in The Angels, and she did not last very long in New York. She always she was more, I want to go back home. I want to go back home, very close to her family. So she did her stint, and then went back to Rhode Island, and then but they stayed together.
He
And
followed
that's a damn miracle. Yes. One would say they are still together, and they have been together for a long time. But it's been a funny life. But it makes you resilient.
And so that
know?
got you into just the idea that you were just around the right people. I mean, what made you at such a young age get into?
Well, so I thank you for keeping me on track.
Yeah.
You're a good producer. So when
I try.
my sister went into the entertainment side, acting, singing, dancing, big choreographer. So she had a studio. And I competed in dance, my whole life. My mother had a big dance studio later. My sister had a studio. But I thought, this is probably not what I'm going to do. So I went, with my girlfriends, let's go to URI. I'm going to go to college. And I was being pressured, but because it was my own fault, to declare a major, in my junior year. And I went and did a semester abroad. And you're getting the letters at home. My grandmother's calling me saying, I think you have to do something or they're going to throw you out. I'm like, I have to declare a major. That's right, part of this whole thing. And the only classes that I really kind of liked were English classes and writing. And I took a journalism class. And I said, all right, I'll declare my major as journalism. So when I got back, I had to take a lot of journalism classes to kind of catch up to the, fulfilling your requirements of your major. And I really liked it. So that's kind of how I stuck with it. Now, but in hindsight, my mother, after getting out of that whole thing, here at home, worked at Channel 12. She started doing like the traffic logs, which you're very familiar with,
Right.
when Salty was at
Salty
WPRO.
Brian. No school Foster Gloucester.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so she was like the traffic girl, and then bopped over to Channel 12 and ended up being on Dialing for Dollars when it was a talk show. So tell me this isn't weird, right?
Yeah.
So she was at WPRO Radio, which it was probably called WPRI back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Switched.
Channel 10.
No, our radio station
the
that I
radio.
work with now. Yeah.
WPRI is, I think,
It's Channel
10.
12. It's Channel 12
NBC,
now.
yeah.
But the radio station, for some reason, was WPRI
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Huh.
I know. Maybe it was owned by the same people. I would have to go back and look. So she was at the radio station. Then she was at Channel 12. And, of course, it was the probably late 60s, early 70s. And it was Hank Bouchard was the host. Anyone who's a little bit older than us listening would know this. It was a talk show, like a community talk show. They'd bring on guests, right, before the podcast days, talk to people, and it was live. And she was sort of, the pretty lady sitting there. But then she'd get up and sing if she had to, if the guest didn't show up.
Fill in a gap,
And she
yeah.
would drag us, I don't even know if I was in school, to do Me and My Shadow. My sister and I is a couple years older
You
than me.
grew up in this whole.
So it was like, all right, put your tap shoes on because someone's not here and we have 10 minutes. Go do Me and My Shadow. I was just following my sister. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. The pictures are like unbelievable. Like, oh my God. I think my tongue was still hanging out of my mouth. Like, my God, how old were we? So we were filling time, right? Oh, fill time. And the nuns would always say, because we went to Catholic school when we were little, these kids are never in school.
Yeah.
They said, you must have good teeth because your mother always took you out of school and said you were going to the dentist.
Oh.
She was shoving us over here and doing
Yep.
this. But, so yes. So in hindsight, I kind of followed my mother
Yeah.
because I'm now at that same radio station doing something completely different, obviously. But I did my internship for television at Channel 12 where she was doing Dialing for Dollars. She actually did, she was, I think, the first female weather bunny woman, whatever they were calling them.
Co-host.
She had a photographic memory. So they said, well, maybe we'll have you get up and do the weather. And she ran to the Warwick Public Library and just ate some books mentally. She was doing the weather. So she always seemed to, I think I get a lot of that from her. I give her a lot of flack because she's kind of funny. But
She's your mom.
she's mom. She's mom. Yeah. So we kind of, the two of, we really did pick up a lot. And here I am still doing this. God, I think it's 30 years, but shh, don't tell anybody.
Time flies.
I was 10.
I just while you were talking to, I was thinking I
Doing
did an
the tap
interview with you
dancing.
when I first started. I remember we did it was before a podcast even existed, I think.
Were we downstairs at the
We
radio
were downstairs,
station?
we were just in a backdrop, and we did an interview, and it was kind of promotional. It was definitely promotional for the real estate business
Yep.
and stuff like that. We had a good time,
I remember that.
and that was probably about 10 years ago. Yeah,
I bet it was.
time does fly,
It-
and with kids, it makes it go by even faster.
It does.
No.
All of a sudden, you just like I remember when they're little. I see little kids now. I'm like, I remember when mine was little.
Right.
And now I look at him and he's big, and I imagine that continues as
It sure
they get
does.
older. Yeah.
Sure does. I've been saying a lot these days. You go back. I don't know if it's their birthday or you're finding a photo for Facebook or whatever, and you see them when they're little, and you're like, oh, I wish I could go back to that.
Right.
But right now, with all the what they're teaching in school, if you're on board, if you're not, this whole thing with the pandemic, they're adults. They're in their 20s. So I'm like, man, I don't feel like going back now.
Right.
It's a lot for you guys with young. It's a
Yeah.
lot for parents right now.
And I think as adults we forget too because it's like, oh well, you go through your day and there's days where it's usually when I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a really easy day. I don't have much to do. Turns into a mountain of a day. And you
Yes.
go home and you're like, and then you have the Ben will be there, talk, mom. And it's like, all right, just give me a minute. And you forget to remember that, he is in school with a mask on the entire
All
time.
day.
If that was me, if working somewhere, I'd be fired because I just wouldn't be able to do it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
I think it's a lot of pressure for these kids and what's normal, right? I had someone call in, a caller to WPRO, and he dropped his daughter off. I think he said 7th grade. And you don't have to wear your masks outside. The kids don't either, right? So he pulls up and all the kids have their masks on. And she put her mask on. He said, you don't have to wear it. And she said, no, I don't mind. It's almost like they're going to have to almost not be reprogrammed, but you're going to have to keep reminding them what this was only supposed to be for a short time.
Right.
This isn't forever.
Right.
But it might be for some people. Who knows? It really might be.
It's always tough, which leads me kind of my next question I was going to ask you. Like, I see you online, and we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'll comment some things that you put out there, and I get it. There's the Tara, and then there's Tara at work.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself out of, I don't want to say the mud, but your personal views on
Being indifferent.
on things, being indifferent on topics that come up?
Well, with this talk radio gig, you really can't. You can't. Now, I think when we talk about online, say a Facebook post, I'm trying to get a gauge of how people, feel.
Right.
And quite frankly, over the last few years, it's really 50-50. And I think that's just because the whole political craziness that we got into,
Right.
with starting with Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. You just saw that the Red Sea was parting with the Blue Sea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it was
Right.
just, wow, you're either over here or you're over here. And so, but on the air, I learned maybe a little bit of the hard way. You know, again, when I was giving you the whole timeline, boring, but of me at WPRO,
I think it's cool.
I thought it was good.
you know, I was kind of like the newsy person.
Yeah.
That's what I came from. And I wasn't really engaging with opinion. And if you think about it, Buddy Sancey really didn't either. He had very strong opinions,
Right.
but he had his own way of doing his show. It's kind of like, let's pick Buddy's brain for 3 hours, right?
Eating sandwiches while doing the read.
Oh my God. I'll tell you, he'd pull in, show starts at 3,
Yeah.
right? You know the drill. We're in a news break, right? Morning or afternoon news person's on.
Yep.
And he's not there yet. Da, 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 right? Not there yet.
Yeah.
So I'm in the control room with the the on-air producer,
Yeah.
the guy or gal that's going to push the buttons and get us all on. And I'm sitting in that part of the studio, and the big studio is empty. The chair's sitting there. Sometimes he'd call in from the car, driver, and he's screaming at the driver, George. I'm like, oh my God, please don't open his mic. Don't put him on yet. So half the time I had my left side of my brain with the Buddy Sancey show, and my right side of the brain was me doing the Buddy Sancey show if he just doesn't feel like coming in.
Right. Right.
Or at 3:20 when he says, I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm going to go. Ah! So you have 2.5 hours to film.
Yeah.
So I always had 2 shows running in my head.
So you got to really be prepared and be like ready on your feet.
Because I didn't do a show like he did a show.
Right.
But he could tell stories, and everybody wanted to hear them. I don't think they want to hear my stories that much. I was more topic, looking for opinion
Right.
driven kind of a show. But in the beginning, I was doing a Saturday show for a while too. And that was my way of just being alone and not having to be with a other person, right? A co-host or the whatever. It was
Yeah.
their show and I'm kind of there. And that was where you really get your feet wet and you learn that the talk radio audience, especially at WPRO, if you are not on top of your game, you are lunch. They will eat you for lunch.
You're saying the listeners?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we call them your P1 listeners, right? Your top, they don't miss anything. And
And you know them by name.
many of them.
Yeah.
But even as far as like the structure of ratings and listening habits, the P1s are your really hardcore people. And so if you were going to do like wishy-washy, did you, when do you start your planting season? And me, listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm obviously a woman, and there's not that many of us, right? Especially, there's not any around here anymore. So I think I had a little bit more of a challenge to not do fluffy stuff.
Right.
And it was always in the back of my mind, even if some of the males did the fluffy stuff, like I don't know how to use my new iPhone, or I knew I couldn't go there in the beginning. Now
It's all open.
It's
Right.
all easy. But in the beginning, I was cautious, if not preventing myself from putting my opinion out there because I didn't quite know in the beginning if that's really where I wanted to be as in talk show. But if you don't, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't
No,
work.
I think you do a great job. It's a very entertaining show to listen to. And
I listen every day, and I know
Yep.
about the introduction. You come in, usually you're always right on at 9:08.
Yeah.
After
Jamie
11.
tells me everything that's going on. I don't get to listen to the radio as much because
I hear the ads. You do great. You do
I'll
great
be
with
there,
those.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh,
He'll
thank
set
you.
it
every
up
time
for
I
me.
go into Jamie's car or truck, I'll turn the car on. It's
Yeah,
on
99.7.
PRO. Yeah.
It's funny because it's happened over the past 2 years. So I always listen to 99.7, but we live in Gloucester, right? So
Yep.
it's like going from Chepachet to like in town, Harmony, Chepachet. And for some reason, it's almost like the radio signal is lessened. And I don't know if it's because I've gotten a new truck, but it doesn't reach as far as it used to.
So what the engineering folks tell us is so for people that are listening, we simulcast, right? So we've always been 6:30 a.m.
Right.
And then they picked up 99.7 FM simulcast, same exact programming, just on 2 different channels. And it seems to be, and I don't know about when you hit basically the airport,
Yeah.
Warwick, and you're going south, the FM channel is much stronger.
Okay.
But if you're going north,
I switch. I have to
Yeah,
switch.
because-
the AM
Because the
signal is
FM
strong.
channel comes out of Wakefield, I think.
Okay.
From what
Yes.
not Wakefield, it comes out from down
Yep,
South County.
WEAN Wakefield. Yes,
Yes.
Oh, that makes
that's our
sense.
sign
So
on. Yeah.
you guys come out of where are you
East
guys?
Providence
East
on the
Providence.
Wampanoag
You
Trail.
come out of East Providence, and the FM comes out of down towards. Is it Wakefield?
Wakefield.
Yeah,
Yep.
Wakefield.
Providence.
That's why.
Yeah, that's
Certain
the
areas
legal
they have
ID they call it. I know.
I switch it. Oops, 6:30. So I
And
don't miss anything.
sometimes you can have a problem with the tower or the signal or what have you, and then it happens. But it's stronger on FM going south,
Okay.
and then stronger on AM going north.
It's been a question. I was like, I don't think that's really worthy to call the radio station in and ask, what about your radio signal?
Well, people do. We'll be on the air, and they'll say, "I can't hear you on streaming," and because now there's so many ways: the app, the stream, the website, and I don't know. I don't know because I'm not there, right?
Yeah.
I'm on the air, so I'm hoping that you can hear us.
You could be the Verizon guy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Well, Liz, we appreciate your time very much. Thank you for coming by.
Oh, thank you.
I got to ask you, though.
Oh, boy.
Going around places, right? Are you able to go, being on radio, not TV, where people see your face every single day? Do people recognize you, like when you go to the store?
It used to be the TV thing.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's my voice.
Right.
So you talk and then
So it's
people
not
go.
necessarily looking. And it's funny what people remember. Like I've worked in a lot of different places, but I was really at Channel 6. And they'll say, I remember you from Channel 10. It's like the one place I didn't work. You were on with so-and-so. I'm like, no, that wasn't that.
Pick three
Maybe it
channels.
was- yeah.
We have 3 channels. Pick one.
Right. And so that's always funny, but they remember you. They'll tell me stories. One day, we didn't have a news director at Channel 6 at one point. You know, they were switching off. Somebody must have gotten fired. Who knows? And we were doing the morning show, and I was doing it with Mark Searles, who's now at Channel 10, right?
Weather.
Yes, and he started at 6.
Yep.
And we were doing the morning show and the noon show, and I drove in one day, and I thought, oh, I think there's a bird on the top of my minivan, because I had a minivan. I had 2 little kids. I'm like, oh, what is that? And it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's pitch black, and it's Orange Street. Some days you'd have to run for the door because you didn't know who was going to be there, and I'm juggling the coffee and so you make a beeline in there and then lock the door behind you. So I get up there, and it's a Barbie doll. So my son hummed his sister's Barbie doll on top of the minivan, and it made it from Exeter to Providence, downtown Providence. But she had like a leaf in her hair, and she had dirt on her face. One leg was up behind her head. I take it down. It was so funny to me.
Yeah.
Probably punchy being on the morning, that early morning weird cycle of hell.
Yeah.
You don't sleep, and you have 2 kids. I'm like, ah. So I take Barbie in, and for some reason, I put her on the set, and she was like, we called her Carjacked Barbie. Carjacked Barbie. She was dirty. I left the leaves in her hair. She'd lost a shoe. And, someone came up to me, years ago, but certainly like 10 years after that, and said, all I can remember was you guys laughing because we didn't have a boss. So and actually, guess what? No offense to Channel 6. I love them. That's where I was there. I lived there. I grew up. I had my kids there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like such a part of me. They've never had good ratings. And so, couldn't even get close. And Channel 10 was a monster in the morning. Now, Channel 12 is a monster in the morning as well.
Right.
But not when we were there. So we were actually number 2 at one point. That's not in the history of Channel 6. Ever. And I wear that thing with a badge. And, and it was both with Steve Cascione and Mark Searles. So I give them both.
Cascione.
And they're like incredible friends of mine.
Yep.
Cascione, I could kill him.
Yep.
He calls me bad names. I call him bad names.
Yep.
But it's all such and fun.
Right.
Such a funny guy. And Mark's like he's like my brother, I met him. I mean, his wife worked there before they got married. So they were both working there. We vacationed when the kids were little. So, I mean, he's a great guy. But yes, so Carjacked Barbie was there. And someone came up to me in a store and said, I just, every time I see a Barbie doll, you guys were laughing so hard because we got away with it.
Yeah.
But guess what? It helped the ratings.
Right.
We didn't have somebody breathing down our neck.
real.
Right.
It was so real and funny.
Well,
but
laughter can be infectious, or smiling. I do this cheesy thing. I'll tell the team and new members when they come on.
Yep.
But I try to make one stranger, someone that I do not know, or even if it's like someone in the grocery store that you may know, make one stranger smile. And it's even better when you can kind of tell maybe it's a little bit of a curmudgeon.
Yes.
And then,
I get that.
And then you
I
just
understand
look at them and you just smile and as big as you can, even if it might not be fully genuine, but you just do it and then they smile back. It's like, yes, you get it. But
That's nice. That you said to me to get recognized. So it is my voice. So we went to I just think I said this before we started the rolling. I went to Block Island for a couple of days, and I did my college summers out there to pay to go to college, right?
Oh, you worked at a hotel? Or?
I worked at the National, the one with the big porch, right? So it was Monday, and we get on the ferry, and I just kind of rolled onto the ferry, like no makeup, just who cares, throw a baseball hat on, whatever. And you had to wear your mask on the ferry still, even this past Monday, because they are governed by the United States Coast Guard, so it's a federal thing.
Okay.
Oh no, you're kidding me! We're out in this beautiful fresh air because last Monday was so nice. All right, fine, we'll put the mask back on. And don't you think I hear Tara Granahan getting on the ferry? I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Now, no, it wasn't. But it was a very good friend of mine. So I've known him since I was like 8 years old. I go, what are you doing here? He was doing business over there.
Yep.
He does internal blinds and shades, and he was doing champlins.
Yep.
And hooking them up with all their window treatment or whatever. But he screams my last name. I have no makeup on. Could you just have said my first name? Now everyone's looking at me. I look like a
thank you
bedhead. Yeah, no makeup. I'm like, son of a gun. Then we get off. We get off the ferry. Left our bags. We were staying at the hotel. We're gonna go have lunch, and I didn't have a mask on, but I still didn't put makeup on my face. And so we just wanted to who cares? We're not going to see anyone. It's before the season is kicking in. There weren't that many people on the boat. And I'm talking to my husband. I'm digging through my bag looking for something because I'm the bag lady. I have too many things in my bag. I'm looking through the bag, and I'm talking to him saying something. And I'm talking loud because he can't hear great. And I hear, Tara? And she was down below, the shops down below the National Hotel. And it was a friend of mine. Now, she had a mask on. And I said, how did you know it was me? She said, I heard you from inside
Your voice.
the shop.
Yeah.
So that nails me now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you know you made it.
Now, what about laugh attacks?
Oh.
Because I get laugh attacks, and it's very
I don't know what you
inappropriate.
talk about. You always talk about laugh attacks.
It's actually happened here. I was on
I've
the phone.
never had
with
a
Like the
someone.
nervous giggle laughs, and then you just hear it in your head, and then it just rips through your whole
But
body.
you just can't. So I was talking to a gentleman. We were setting up a bill, and Cedar Swamp Road is where we're on. Right?
Yes.
And so he said, okay, so Cedar Slump Road. And so for some reason, I just lost it. I started laughing. I started laughing so hard. I couldn't stop, and tears. I'm like convulsing. I had to hang up on him.
Was that a laugh track?
Yeah.
I
So I could finally use it.
Oh, yeah.
And so Julie, she's the bookkeeper. She sits in the same office with me. So now she's laughing. So we're rolling.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to call that guy back. And I'm like, all right. So I call him back. And all of a sudden I call him back. And I'm like, I can't do it.
I've come home
So what
to
do you
Jamie
do on the
crying.
radio?
Oh,
when,
I used to be so nervous. But see, with television, you can't really crack up if you're doing death and destruction stories, right? So you can't. That's worse.
Yeah.
And I remember, and poor Cascione, he's going to ask for royalties if he hears this podcast because we're mentioning his name. He and I were sitting there, and I had just come back from having one of my kids. I can't remember which one, but
one of them.
and it was hot, and so it must have been my son. Yeah, thinking of seasons when they were born. Come back from maternity leave, and you're not exactly, you're still shoving everything, all your parts into your clothes, you know what I mean? Because it was only 3 months, and looking presentable, but not feeling like, I just had a baby, for crying out loud. Yeah. And so he says something like, going to the beach, something, bathing suit. And I jokingly, that happy talk, the cross talk they call it.
Right.
You can get away with a little something there. And I said, oh, going to the beach. I said, I'll be under a sheet is what I said. And he goes, and I'll be under there with you. I go, what? He meant oh, I'm not ready for a bathing suit either. Yeah. But it's the way he said it. It's on a blooper reel somewhere that Channel 6 has. And I'm so upset that I lost my copy. And I'm always asking people, can we get that back? Because sometimes, what are you going to do? Yeah. So we were laughing. Then there was another one.
Oh, you guys broke out.
Oh, we broke it down laughing. And then, but he still had to walk to what we call the chroma key wall, right? And do the weather. And he couldn't pull it together. And another time, the light above him exploded. It was I'm like, shots fired. I'm under the desk. Yeah. But the camera's on him because he's doing the weather. And it all rained down. His hair was burning. And I mean, what are you going to do?
Wow.
He's banging on his head. The blooper reel is amazing.
Show must go on, right?
Show must go on.
The stress of doing it live every single day
is a lot.
Is just thinking about it. It's is this going to be the day?
And you got to roll. I still have, it's not a nightmare, but I will have a dream every once in a while that I'm doing a newscast and I can't see the teleprompter. So I look down at the hard copy and it's all blurry. And then you have nowhere to go.
Right.
Or I get to the set and I don't have any makeup on. That's my other fear, apparently, after wearing makeup for so long.
I have that one every now and then. But
as far as the radio, you can kind of roll with it now. Yeah, right. One, I won't say who it was because I don't know if he has a sense of humor anymore. But I was working with someone on the radio and the caller, you type up, Jane from Smithfield or Larry from Seekonk. And there's a town in Massachusetts that I think we all know is Assonet.
Yeah.
Assonet.
Right.
Yeah.
He said assnet. I went mental. And then he got like mad at me because I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah. Well, it's hilarious.
And he couldn't say a sonnet. So he was going, stop it. I saw assnet. I'm like,
But he was from it. He was from Assinet.
no, this was the host.
Oh, okay.
This was the person working on the show.
With you, yeah.
And it was the caller was John from a sonnet. And he said, all right, let's go to the calls. So-and-so, Joe from Assnet. And I'm like, a sonnet. And he couldn't say it. He was saying Assinet. I'm like, a sonnet. So I get on that. You can just shut your mic off at that point, though, right? You can dump your own mic.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to get it back, though, like being in church with your siblings or whatever, and you get those crazy giggles. It happens. It happens. I've got a lot more breathing room on the radio than you did on television.
Yeah, you have to like just pinch yourself, like, no, like you gotta.
And you can go to a break.
Yeah.
Try to get it back together. The worst part is hearing yourself, because you're wearing headsets, and it's almost like as soon as you hear yourself start to lose it, it's over.
Yeah.
It's like being in church or in an inappropriate place to be having a laugh attack. I get that. I get the laugh attacks. My family's terrible at that.
Yeah. I was so curious about them. Like, what about laugh attacks? I gotta ask her. But yeah, multiple times.
Well, we appreciate very much being on the show. What time are you on now during the
9
days?
to noon.
9
to noon every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to noon.
99.7 and on 6:30 a.m. I always do the 99.7 FM. So,
and for people that we do a lot of podcasting now. So I know you guys. This is so great for you, your business, and they can always hear the interviews if they go. A lot of people are working during the day and they can't hear you from 9 to noon, and so they go and they listen to the interviews, and and then of course you've got Facebook and Twitter and keeping in touch with the listeners, and I'm not doing the Instagram. I'm just not there. The kids are on there. Go have fun, but Facebook and Twitter I'm on, and that keeps people engaged.
Yeah,
really does.
Really good engaged stuff, really good stuff. You do a great job. And
thank you. I
enjoy
appreciate
listening
it.
to
I'll even go online to WPRO and check it out, and then there's a spot where you can just watch it live. When there's commercials, it just goes black.
Oh, yes. Well, we had the webcams in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
because of COVID.
COVID, we're all at home, so we can't see. But we will be going back in sooner than later. And I don't know, it'll be interesting. We're going to get some new digs. We're not moving out of the building, but we get some new equipment and everything. So maybe we'll get the webcam back. Yeah. That's when you can't, that's when you have to go back to wearing makeup, and you can't be, just itching and scratching or chewing on a sandwich. So yeah, I mean, it's all good. It's all fun. And I'm at a certain point where if it wasn't fun, I just wouldn't do it anymore.
I can tell you
it's a blast. Yeah,
I can tell you have fun.
And I want to shout out to Nick Flanagan, my producer, who I don't know if he'll be able to hear this, but I work with a really good guy that just is in it for the work and does a really good job. And it's not about him or me. Like I dragged him to we were getting an award, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to that." I said, "Yes, you are." Because you're doing the show, you're putting it all together. Just because we don't hear you that much, he's not one to grab the mic and start interrupting. Right, I have to get him to come on the air. But it's a team. It's not a lot of people in radio, right? It's one or two people. But I've been lucky. Yeah, been lucky, and I'll keep Nick as long as he can stand me.
Yeah,
you're not going anywhere until I'm done.
That's right.
Right.
Well, guys, thank you very much, Tara. Terrific, Tara.
Yeah, thank you.
Tara, terrific.
I'm so glad to be here with Nathan Clark and Jamie Clark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nathan Clark team. I feel like I could do the whole thing in my sleep.
Yes, well, it's been about 10, 11 years. So.
Yeah.
Well, you guys do. I mean, you guys do great work. I get the emails. Who do I go to? Nathan Clark team.
Right.
We appreciate it.
Get it done.
We appreciate it very much.
We do.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
So we support you too.
Thank you. I know. I love having you guys. Really been great. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Yes,
and we look forward to our next interview. We'll have that guys ready for you guys. And with that said, guys, everybody have a great day.
Bye-bye.
See ya.